it's the only one we've ever had of a president of the United States, a former president. It is definitely a historic day, I guess, if you wanted to put it in the most value neutral terms you want to put it. It's a big deal, and it's a big deal, especially that the president is being charged, or the former president is being charged in a state court, not in a federal court.
What are we to make of the rhetoric that he comes out with? Because he's following his old pattern, isn't he, of coming out and saying, well, you know, I've done absolutely nothing wrong, and everybody knows it. It's as though if he chants out the line that everyone believes him, it becomes true.
And that is his pattern, right? It's either everyone knows it, or in other circumstances he'll come out with the, you know, people are saying, which then he presents as truth, because that way he doesn't have to say that I'm merely claiming this, but rather that it is somehow objective. Now, we can't be surprised that he says he's innocent, right? People always say they're innocent when they've been booked, and we don't, you know, people are innocent until they're proven guilty in this country as well. But it's important to note that, you know, you can say whatever you want about an election. What you can't do, what you shouldn't do, is defame people without evidence, which is one of the things he's accused of doing. What you're not supposed to do is you're not supposed to encourage government officials in the absence of evidence to look for or find 11,680 votes. Those are the things that it's precisely this idea that there is a line between saying, I really think I won this election, and me claiming that person in particular stole it when there's no evidence that you can present that person did anything of the sort.
But this rhetoric, and he said it quite a few times, didn't he? I have the right, of course I have, to challenge the outcome of an election. And would that point towards that's basically going to be his defence?
It looks that way. It looks like that's one of the big defenses, is essentially, to use American terminology, is a First Amendment defense, is freedom of speech, freedom to petition the government to redress grievances, if that I'm free to do that, that anyone is free to do that. And so the big question is going to be, as a legal matter, and as a matter of when they work out the facts in court, is whether Mr. Trump and his co-defendants here, the alleged co-conspirators, whether they crossed the line from merely expressing an opinion to actually trying to spread falsehoods that they were aware were false, or that they were encouraging government officials to do things that they knew were false and contrary to fact.
What astounds me with this, and what I can't quite get my head around, Ronald, is the idea that whatever is going on here, it seems to be boosting his popularity politically, which means whatever the timings and whether or not there's a conviction, he could still be the nominee for the Republican Party, and in fact, it looks like could still become president even if he's sitting in a jail cell.
It is astonishing, and he's of course aware of this, right? So he realizes that, you know, making sure that he was wearing his typical presidential suit, making sure that he could get the photograph that he wanted taken of himself. These are important decisions, because he could read a poll just as well as anybody else, and it is fascinating. And I don't know, the old joke, right? I'm a trained historian, and the joke is, if you ask me what's going to happen tomorrow, I probably couldn't tell you, but if you ask me in 10 years, I can explain why whatever's going to happen tomorrow was probably inevitable. But in this case, I can't really say that, in the sense that we are in completely uncharted territory. And the idea that his opponents are afraid to criticize him is even more astonishing.
Yes, we actually heard some of the Republican contenders saying that they wanted to be president, but they wouldn't mind Trump as their vice president or as their advisor.
Or as their advisor. Well, and at least one Republican, one challenger for the Republican nomination, Vivek Ramaswamy, has made it a point of saying that he promises on day one as president he would pardon Donald Trump anyway, which is, I mean, this level of support for the people who are actually trying to take your job away from you or defeat you for a job is unusual, to say the least, I guess.
I mean, what does that tell us about the GOP and how they're operating at the moment, if people who actually want the job don't even have the nerve to properly criticise the man who they want to replace.
Right. I say it at the most basic level, it just reminds us all that the Republican Party is the party of Donald Trump. That even no matter what size his base may be within the larger country, within the party itself, his base is so large that, and at least is perceived as so large and so united, that there is no one who has the nerve to directly criticize it. I mean, one can imagine that a lot of these people are crossing their fingers and hoping that something will happen that will encourage Mr. Trump to step away. But they don't seem to want to go at him because they assume that the voters support him. And until we actually see the voters vote, say in the Iowa caucuses in February or in March in New Hampshire, that is the assumption everybody's going to be operating on. He still is well ahead of everyone else.
And once again, he's using the power of social media and turning his back on the established media. The Republican contenders all go on television in a big debate. He wasn't there. Mm-hmm. It was still all about Trump. Meanwhile, he does an interview on X, I think we call it now, rather than Twitter. And he gets a viewership of something like 200 million.
Yeah. Now, it is, especially when you consider that the Republican debate was on a media channel that has always been very sympathetic to Donald Trump. And one could argue that he and Rupert Murdoch worked closely together in order to make Donald Trump president. And yet Trump can even turn up his nose at Fox News is quite notable. And the one big news, though, was that he did tweet, or actually I don't know what we call it anymore. He X'd on X this morning of his own mugshot, which is he has returned then to the platform that he's been off of for the past couple of years. And so that raises interesting questions of whether he's planning on going back towards X now that X is run by the more sympathetic Elon Musk, and what this means for his former or his existing social media platform, Truth Social. We're going to see a lot more things that we're going to say are unprecedented, I imagine, in the weeks and months to come.
I know it's the middle of the night in Philadelphia, but you still look exasperated as well as tired on this one. It's a head scratcher. Good to see you.